So hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our first Scribbr live stream this evening. I'm Kristin, and I will be co-hosting with Doug.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see you.
We're really excited to be doing these live streams, and we will be offering them twice a week for the rest of this year's college essay season. So if you get something out of tonight's session and you want to come back, we would absolutely love to see you. You can check out our live stream landing page for our most up-to-date schedule. We want to spend the vast majority of our time tonight really just digging into as many essay topics as we can. But before we get started, I just wanted to really quickly let you know about a couple of our other Scribbr resources in case you have questions afterward or just need more help, because we are really here to support you in any way that we possibly can. We have a brand new college essay focused knowledge-based category that you guys can check out, and we'll make sure you get the link to that. It will walk you through everything you need to know to write an outstanding college essay. We also have our brand new college essay editing and coaching service, which would be a good fit if you'd like more one-on-one help. You'll be paired with one of our coaches, and we will go through your essay individually and just take a look at the grammar, structure, narrative, language use, everything in there that you need help with, answer all your questions, and just make sure that you're on the right track. So we can get you the info about that too. But yeah, let's get into the essays. I'm Kristin. I have been at Scribbr for 7 years now, and I helped design our new essay editing service. And before that, I have worked as an English teacher and a college essay tutor. So yeah, I'm just psyched to be sharing my expertise with you guys today. And I'll hand over to Doug to introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Doug, and I've been working at Scribbr for a couple of years. In addition to that, I am a college professor, and I have worked as a college admissions coach. So I have been on both sides of the fence, helping students get into college and then teaching students once they're there. And so I have a real interest in this area. It's very exciting to me because it opens the doors for possibilities for students to attend their dream schools, and also for a lot of financial aid and scholarships, which we'd like to hopefully see you get. So I'm excited to work with Kristin tonight. Let's see what we can do with these essays.
Excellent. So yeah, without further ado, let's launch in. If you guys have questions while we're going through these essays, you can use the Q&A feature, which you will find down at the bottom of your little Zoom panel there, and you can just type your questions in, and Doug and I will get to as many of those as we possibly can. I've also opened up the chat for all participants. If any of you guys have an essay that you would like to submit, or a topic, or whatever you have, you can pop that into the chat as well, and we'll try to get to as many of your submissions as we can. We can't promise anyone, but yeah, we're here to help. So yeah, let's take a look at the first topic, Doug. Our prompt is: reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? And it looks like Common App, so we have a word limit of 650 words. And our student's idea here is: I want to write about how my best friend Carla always stands up for me and has inspired me to stand up for others. In first grade, she defended me against Billy Burrell, who was teasing me for my bad haircut. Last year, she took the blame for me when I accidentally crashed my dad's car into a bush. She's the best. And our student is asking here, how can I make this not boring?
Well, the first thing I look at, Kristin, when I look at this essay is how wonderful to have a best friend that's inspired you. So I understand why you would want to use this for your essay topic. However, as I'm looking at your essay idea, the first red flag that goes up for me is it kind of seems to be all about Carla. And I'm wondering, if you write your essay from this slant, if the college is going to want to end up admitting Carla instead of you. And so one of the things that I find that students really struggle with sometimes is learning to write about themselves. It feels much more natural to write about Carla. It feels much more inspiring to tell about Carla and what she's done for you. She means a lot to you. But at the end of the essay, we really wouldn't know anything about you. So the very first thing, if you're going to reflect on something or someone that has done something for you that has made you happy in a surprising way, we want to not spend a lot of time on Carla. We just want to use Carla as a springboard to help us see what you said. She's inspired you to stand up for others. And so that motivation that you're talking about, the gratitude that you feel towards Carla, you can tell us that Carla's done some amazing things, maybe at the beginning, just give us a short paragraph. And then what we really need to see is the inspiration. And instead of you telling us, that you have been inspired to stand up for others, show us. Show us who you've stood up for. Give us examples, give us people, incidents that have taken place that actually allow us to see a portrait or a picture of your inspiration, of how you've been motivated to stand up for other people. And in that way, you'll be able to promote yourself better to the college that you're applying to. Kristin, do you have other comments?
I agree 100% here. And I think the other big thing that I would look out for is the second anecdote that you're sharing about Carla, and how she took the blame for you when you crashed your dad's car. I think maybe there's more to the story than what's being shared here, but I'm not sure that that's the angle that you want to be showing to the admissions officers, because it's not really putting your best foot forward, right? Of you maybe not taking responsibility for something that wasn't your best moment. So unless there's something more to this anecdote that isn't included here, I think Carla can be a good topic and that you can make this work so long as you keep the focus on yourself, like you've said, Doug. But I might revisit your friendship with her a bit and just see if you can, for the second part here, pick a different anecdote about her that's going to put both of you in a better light, and that you can kind of springboard into what you've done with that. So yeah, that's what I would say about this one, is just avoid that pitfall of focusing too much on Carla and really think about what you want to show in terms of how you've put the lessons that you've learned from Carla into practice in your own life. How can we make this not boring? Oops, sorry. I don't think this essay is going to be boring though. I wouldn't worry about this in terms of the specific question here. I think as you're writing it, once you get really clear about what you want to write, just really, close your eyes, reflect back on those moments of Carla that you're going to be sharing, really get what were you smelling, what were you seeing, what was happening, what was going on. And if you can bring all of that in, I'm not worried about the essay being boring. It's just like you said, Doug, it's a bit more of the focus point. Next essay. Looks like another Common App here. Common App prompt number 6. Describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? We have a 650 word limit again, and our student has said, I am so obsessed with trivia and memory games. I've competed in several local memory competitions where I've memorized decks of cards, historical dates, and people's names and record times. I want to connect this to my love for language, how memory competitions have helped me use mnemonic devices to learn foreign languages fast. I've already learned Russian, Italian, and Swahili. And our student wants to know, is this going to be good enough for Ivy League schools?
So Kristin, when I look at this essay and the question, that's a great question. Is it going to be good enough for an Ivy League school? Obviously, you want to aim high for the colleges that you're applying to. And my response to you is, it absolutely could be. So as we're looking at the content, I don't think the issue so much is, so the idea that you're obsessed with trivia and memory games, very interesting. You've got several local memory competitions, decks of cards, historical dates, people's names, and you want to connect this to a love for language, and you've learned 3 languages. So you're obviously a very interesting person. You have enough material to work with, And if it's written well, if it's written in a compelling way, it absolutely would work for an Ivy League school. However, as I'm looking at this, one of the pitfalls that I see is we kind of have two competing streams of thought, and you're going to have to prioritize which one you're going with, because it feels like the first part really walks into the obsession with memory and mnemonic devices and all the competitions, and then all of a sudden it feels like it switches over to learning foreign languages fast. And the Russian, the Italian, the Swahili. So you could have an essay that really competes against itself unless you do a good job of outlining this essay in a way that makes sense. And I would just encourage you, we have an excellent article in our knowledge base about how to outline a college essay that would be real useful to you as you try to bring this together. But we really need a stream of thought, and we really need a major focus. And I think that the foreign languages is probably the one that you want to focus on, because foreign languages show your desire to connect with people worldwide. It shows your intelligence and your ability to communicate with people who come from different cultures and different backgrounds than you. It widens your horizons. And so maybe not spending so much time on the trivia and the memory games, just giving us a synopsis of how this memory has helped you learn these languages. I think by prioritizing and outlining this essay, you're going to be able to make it good enough for that Ivy League school. What else do you see here, Kristin?
I agree. I think that I'm captivated by this idea. I think this is super unique. Not a lot of students can say either one of these things. I agree that paring it down to one of these is the main focus. Maybe bringing in the other one just, in passing is going to be the way to do this. And I would also say, don't forget that second part of the prompt here of the what or who do you turn to when you want to learn more, because I'm not seeing so much about that right here. So just when you're working on this, make sure that you give that a little bit of thought too, and that you're answering both parts of the prompt, just because, the admissions officers, they want to see that you can tell a good story, that you can grab their interest, that you can show that you have strengths and qualities that they're looking for, but they also want to see that you can follow directions. So just make sure that you're taking a look at all the parts here and bringing that in.
One other thing, Kristin, that I would say to this student as well, since you're asking about your essay, I find this with a lot of students that they have some really outstanding accomplishments that set them apart, but then they don't really tell us what those mean. They don't attach emotion, they don't attach meaning, they don't attach heart. So this essay could come off as a very heartless, sort of like, well, I can memorize things and I can learn languages, but we never get to see the motivation why. And I'm thinking the way this is written, you probably got motivation underneath for learning these languages, not just because you want to be multilingual, but because you actually have a desire to connect, or there's something in your story that has made you want to learn languages to be able to communicate to other people. And so being able to see your heart, being able to see your compassion, being able to see your desire for community and bridge building and communication is going to be real essential to this essay to make it compelling, so it doesn't just come off with a, hey, I'm smart and I'm smart and I'm smart and I can memorize and I can learn languages and wow, don't you guys think I'm great? And it's like, instead what you want to do is show the humanity, is to show the emotional connection of all of this and why it matters to you, what motivates you to do this.
I agree. And I'm seeing that we have a question in the chat here that touches a little bit on that topic. So do you mind if I cut in here and share the question? We have Waylon asking, hey, what do you guys think is the connection between who to turn to learn and being engaged deep in a topic? How could I connect those two things?
Okay, so part of the idea here, when you're talking about a connection between learning something and who to turn to, one of the things that colleges are looking for is teachability. They're looking for humility. They're looking for someone who is able to grow and develop based on mentorship, teaching, leadership from other people. One of the things that some students struggle with historically when they go to college is if they're not used to learning from experts, if they're not used to learning from teachers and they kind of feel like they have it all charted out, it can be a really rocky road. And so colleges are really interested in knowing, are you teachable? Do you have the humility to learn? Do you have openness? So it's really important for you to be able to explain the connection of like, yeah, this is how I get engaged deeply in a topic. And when I go deep, I take mentors, I take experts with me from the internet, from reading, from resources, from community, wherever those people are, that we see that you already have a track record of learning from people who know more than you do and doing it with humility as you go deep. Even though you have a great love and a lot of ability, you also have this connection and ability to learn from other people who are experts. What do you think, Kristin?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a fantastic answer. And yeah, I don't have much to add, actually. I think this is a great essay. I think I agree that it could 100% get you into an Ivy League school if you go the right way with it. I see something popping up in the chat here, so let's see if Waylon, yep, he says, gotcha. Thanks, Doug. You're welcome, Waylon. But yeah, I think this is a fantastic essay, and you know, the student is obviously already super smart and motivated, and you don't need to brag, you don't need to prove yourself here with these stories because you already have it. So yeah, again, the focus is going to be on bringing in more of the authentic side and sharing a bit more of who you are beyond these accomplishments in the context of this essay. Let's see. Another common app prompt we have. Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful, they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. 650 words again. And we have, it looks like Taco Bell here. I want to write about how Taco Bell is awesome. It's the place where some of my most important life events happened, both good and bad. My first kiss, my first car accident, the first time they released those cinnamon twists. Taco Bell has taught me to embrace the good and the bad. And the student wants to know if this is too basic, they just want to stand out.
Well, I think it's fun. I mean, I love the idea of the whole Taco Bell thing because it's unexpected. One thing that students don't realize is that admissions officers go through a mountain of essays. So the minute you get around something that's fun or interesting or unexpected, it draws your attention in. So it's super fun. I love that you said that Taco Bell has taught me to embrace the good and bad. Now that's a little bit vague, but what you're saying is that something of a moral development, a character development has surrounded Taco Bell. So there's a reason to talk about Taco Bell, which is really fun. And in that way, it's not too basic. However, it's the important life events that you list here that are a little suspect. Because my first kiss, so lots of people have a first kiss in high school. My first car accident, lots of people have car accidents. I know I did. You know, the first time they released those cinnamon twists, it's like, huh, none of those show me anything about your character. None of those add to your persona. None of them reveal more about you beyond what we know. It just kind of feels all really incidental, really not worthwhile. And so I kind of see this awesome shell of Taco Bell and the idea that could be developed, embrace the good and the bad, what you mean by that. You really want to develop that for us. And then you give us life events that are really generic and don't tell us anything about you as a student, as a person, as a leader, about your potential. And I think that's where we might get into problems. Can you add to that, Kristin?
I agree. I think I would revisit the events that you want to share here. I like Taco Bell as the frame. I think you could do a montage essay with that as the backdrop, and you could could think a bit more carefully about how Taco Bells fit into your life and what you want to showcase about yourself. And then once you've got that solid, you can use Taco Bell as the backdrop to share that and walk us through a couple of those different anecdotes, and that would be fun and refreshing for the admissions officers. It's not going to be the same old. So I really like that as the frame, but yeah, I would think a bit more deeply about what you want the lessons to be that you're sharing from those anecdotes, because ideally every anecdote that you share should do more than just being entertaining. It's a chance to show your good qualities to the admissions officers in a humble way, with the showing, not telling instead of bragging, or to, you know, demonstrate how you can overcome challenges or how you've grown as a person. And the admissions officers are really, to see that you're college ready, they really need to see that you have that ability for self-reflection, that you can recognize when you've been learning lessons in life and overcoming these things. So yeah, I like the originality, but I think it needs a bit more thought here.
And Kristin, I love that you brought up the idea of the montage essay. Some of our students are wondering, oh my goodness, what's a montage? And that's a really fair question. It's a term that we don't really use a lot in high school writing. But a montage, basically, if you will think about it as snapshots or pictures of specific events in your life, and if you would take those pictures and you would frame them on your wall, you would have a collection of those pictures and they would speak to a single theme. So when you're writing a montage essay, instead of doing the single story narrative that's chronological and moves through an event, here, the things that happened at Taco Bell, you would talk about the first time I encountered someone who was rude and I learned how to have patience with people who were struggling. Or the first time I'm not sure what incidents, because the incidents that you picked here aren't real good, but what you would do is you would pick memorable snapshots in time of things that happened at Taco Bell, and you would write a paragraph about each one of those incidents, and it would create an entire essay with an intro and a conclusion that would draw us into the Taco Bell scenario. And I do agree with Kristin. I think it's great how she snuck that in there, that you could use a montage here. Montage essays take a little bit of work sometimes for students because they're much more used to writing that single story narrative and going chronologically, but it can be a really effective tool. And if you're interested in seeing more about that, if you will look on our knowledge base at Scribbr, we actually have examples in our example essays of montage essay writing that will give you a picture of what a successful montage looks like. And for this student, I would really encourage you to follow Kristin's advice.
Yeah, I think the montage format actually works really well with this prompt, even more generally speaking. You know, Carla, the student that was writing about Carla, also was addressing, well, no, they had the one about another person that's been meaningful to you. But when you're focusing your essay on something that's not a story, so it's not that one about one lesson learned or one major life event, I think that's where the montage can really be helpful. If you're trying to talk about the one lesson learned, the montage might not be the best fit, but for a lot of these Common App prompts, it can be a very good option. Anything else to add before we move on here? Oh, wait, we've got one more in the chat. How could you make Taco Bell stand out though? Seems like working at Taco Bell just isn't very stand out. I think.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just going to say that I think anything can stand out in a college essay if your writing is good. You know, I don't think there's many topics at all that are off limits. It's what you do with them, because, you know, even if you have a really amazing background, like the last student that we just reviewed, of the mnemonic devices and the 3 languages, if you just are listing your accomplishments like boom, 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 but you're not bringing the heart in, that's going to be an unbalanced essay. And with this one, I think it falls a little bit on the other side, where the challenge is going to be, what do you want to show about yourself and your development and your good qualities? But there's nothing wrong with bringing a little bit of fun or oddball or creative or just a bit wacky into your essay, if that's who you are, you know? And I wouldn't force it if you're more of the introvert that isn't gonna write, I want to write about how awesome Taco Bell is with 4 exclamation points after it, because it's gonna ring a bit hollow. But if that's who you are, I would say completely embrace it, and nothing is off limits for your essay if you do it right.
And Kristen, I would add to that some of the very best essays that I've read, some that have actually been submitted and got students accepted with scholarships, have taken very ordinary ideas and captured extraordinary results with them. And so that really seems to catch an admissions officer's attention as they're reading. It's like, oh, Taco Bell, and then boom, here is this life lesson and development and character growth and maturity and things that have come out of a very ordinary event, and the student has something extraordinary to share. That juxtaposition seems to be very appealing to some colleges.
Yeah, and I think it comes to the point too that a lot of students say that their life isn't interesting enough to write a good essay, because you haven't competed in Junior Olympics or traveled to 17 foreign countries or, won gold medals or whatever. But the colleges aren't going to judge you based on the different, if you haven't had those opportunities, they're not going to hold that against you, because that's just been what your life experience has been up until this point. What they're looking for is what can you do with the life experience that you have had. And so I think they're going to be impressed if you can turn Taco Bell into an awesome essay. And I think the student, tweak the events a little bit, but I think this topic could work with a little bit more self-reflection here. Let's see what else we have down here. Let's see. We have discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. We have a 650 word limit again. We have a bunch of Common App tonight, it looks like. And we have, I went on a volunteer trip to Guatemala to build houses, and I experienced severe diarrhea and vomiting. The experience made me a stronger and humbler person. I remember meeting a nice lady who was so kind to me when I was sick. Our questions from the student are, I guess I feel like this is cliche, but it really changed my life. I feel really stuck.
Okay, so Kristen, in this, I think we see the opposite of the Taco Bell issue. Volunteer trips to foreign countries, they're really common in essays. Students write about these kinds of things all the time. So I understand why the student is like, I feel like this is cliche. But it really changed my life. Life change is never cliche. So what we need to see from this is the transformation that took place inside of you while you were there, in reflection, after you got back, and then application as you've moved forward living your life. So that life change, being able to sincerely and authentically share that in an essay, that's not cliche. So what you're going to want to do is really come back to reframing the idea of this volunteer trip, because it's great that you went to Guatemala to build houses on a volunteer trip, and it was life-changing. And then you offer us some, what I will call offshoots of the severe diarrhea and vomiting. Okay, that doesn't put you in a great light, and it really doesn't matter to the story, unless that is part of what contributed to making you a stronger and humbler person. Now, again, there you kind of got the vagueness going on. What do you mean by a stronger person? What do you mean by a humbler person? Instead of telling us that you're strong or telling us that you're humble, you're really going to want to show us that. In fact, as I'm thinking about stronger and humbler right now, sometimes those don't go together. Strong to become strong, sometimes people don't lean towards humility as well. So that's an interesting combination. If you can show us how that happened to you and how that's continued, and you can actually add detail to it. So I'm really seeing like the same idea kind of with the Taco Bell. It's like, okay, this isn't surprising. Lots of students talk about this topic, but framed in the right way, it could really be impactful if we get to see the life change that took place in you. Kristen, other ideas?
Agreed. And I would say keep the focus, definitely tell the story about Guatemala and give us that narrative, but show us how you've put those lessons into practice since you've been back from Guatemala. Because a lot of people go on these volunteer trips or have the very intense experience, and it feels like a big change, but you can also set yourself apart if you can show the admissions officers how you've integrated that experience into your more ordinary day-to-day. And I'd also take a look at the part of the prompt that asks you about, not just this period of personal growth, but a new understanding of yourself or others. So I dig a bit deeper here and really get into what did you learn about yourself or about the world through this experience? A little bit beyond that I'm a stronger and humbler person. What was it? What was the realization that helped you to move into being a stronger and humbler person? And that might take a little bit of thought to get to, but I think that'll make it a stronger essay if you can really dig a little bit deeper here and show that to the admissions officers. Again, that self-reflection is going to show that you're college ready.
Kristin, you're doing something for us that I want to point out to students because it's a real skill. Several times you've gone back and pointed to the prompt, and you've helped us dissect the prompt and not miss specific parts of it. One of the things that I appreciate about our essay editors at Scribbr is that we have some people that are excellent at helping students really dissect and come up with what the prompt is asking for, and then to express that explicitly. In fact, I think coming up in some of our live streams, we're actually going to be talking about that, about how to dig into a prompt, how to parse it, how to extract what the admissions officers are looking for and directly answer that question. And I've seen you do that several times tonight, even as we're talking. And so I just want to point that out to all of you students. Pay attention to what Kristin is doing, because the skill that she has to come back to the prompt and really think about it will make your essay stronger.
Yeah, and I think I see students often, everyone wants to stand out from the crowd and it's competitive out there. So I 100% get that. But I see students often kind of going like a shock and awe approach almost with their essays, where you want to be the bestest story that's the most extreme and the most kind of wow factor, and forgetting, I guess, that heart that you mentioned earlier, Doug, of what's happening inside, what's not just the exciting events, but what's the inner transformation that's happening. And I think that can fall a bit to the side with these more narrative stories as well. With too much focus on external events and not enough focus on the internal. And that doesn't mean that you have to spend, several paragraphs mulling over your, stream of consciousness thoughts about the experience, but, show us, not tell us what changed for you and what's really happening inside, because this is really the only part of your application where you get to be a fully 3D person for the admissions officers, beyond your transcripts and your grades. And you really want to make yourself as human as possible here and as much you as possible and authentic. If you have a friend or a parent or somebody read it and they don't think it, if you could hand it to them, they should be able to immediately tell that it was written by you. Even if they didn't know it was your essay, they should be able to pick it out of a stack of paper and immediately think, oh yeah, that's Doug's essay, or that's Waylon's essay, or whatever, because you've hit yourself so spot on that it's a good self-portrait. Oh, I see something popping up in the chat. I too feel stuck, like so much. How do I just get out of the rut and actually get words on the page? We have.
Okay, so go ahead, Kristin.
I was going to say that check out, we have some brainstorming articles in our knowledge base for exactly these situations. And there's a bunch of prompt questions there that can help get you started with getting out of that rut. And that should get you thinking, because some of them are pretty fun questions, like, I don't know, not just deep things like what are my top 3 values or what are my biggest life lessons, but, more like if I could bring 3 books to a desert island, or the food that best represents me, or so take a look through our brainstorming questions and see which ones resonate, and then just maybe start writing or start making a list, and don't worry about if the ideas are good or not, because some of them will be good and some of them won't be good. And what you want to do to get started is just get as many of them out on the page as possible without self-editing yourself, because for me, at least, when I'm writing, that's where the writer's block comes from, is the inner perfection, the inner, I guess, perfectionism stopping me from just getting everything out on the page. So I would say take a look at the brainstorming lists, answer the questions, do some free form writing and list making, and don't judge the things that are coming. And I bet when you go back and look at that, you'll have some things that are surprisingly good. And the ideas that aren't so good, you know, who cares? You just need one good idea. We have Amy in creative writing. We call it throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks. Anything to add, Doug?
Yeah, and I'm glad that Amy brought up the idea of creative writing, because one of the things that I tell students when they're coming to the essay is that you're writing about yourself in 650 words. When have you ever done this before? You know, we do so much as English teachers teaching in high school about research writing, which is all third person and citing sources and adding to the body of knowledge, exploring a topic. You have creative writing where you're creating a certain scenario or a storyline. And then when you come to this college essay part, you're not used to talking about yourself. So just like in creative writing where you throw it against the wall to see what sticks, like just open up the floodgates and explore you. And you're going to feel awkward. You're probably going to feel self-conscious. You're going to think none of it's good. And that's where having feedback is really useful, because the bottom line is probably none of those things are true. Probably what is true, you've just never done it before. And how could you expect to be an expert at something that no one's ever asked you to do until this point? So that's one of the things that we really encourage at Scribbr. This is a brand new experience, and we really want to help equip you with something that you shouldn't be an expert at. And then all of a sudden, here comes the college essay and applications, and it has all this weight on it. 25% of your application goes to your essay, and you've never done it before. Don't be too hard on yourself. Give yourself an opportunity to rise to the challenge, because what I've seen time and time again, when students kind of let themselves off the hook and take the creative writing approach and just kind of try things out, that they often come up with ideas that are stellar and memorable.
Yeah, and it's like we said earlier, you don't need a super exceptional life to have a super exceptional essay. Taco Bell can work. So if you're wondering, oh, my life is too ordinary, there's definitely good stuff in there if you dig a little bit. Let's go on so we can get to a bunch of essays tonight. Ooh, we've got supplemental prompts here. We have, looks like Caltech. Tell us how you have collaborated with and worked together within a small group of your peers on some task or endeavor in the past, or about how you imagine you will work with your Caltech peers in the future. Since it's supplemental, we only have 150 to 250 words. And our proposed idea is, I have a part-time job as a busboy at a small Italian restaurant. I hated seeing all the food I have to throw out. I thought we could maybe use this food elsewhere. I worked with other friends to talk with our bosses to donate unused food to food banks to make meals for the homeless. We've saved over $10,000 worth of food this past year, and I hope to do something similar at Caltech. And the question is, how much should I focus on what I already did versus on what I want to do at Caltech?
Okay, so first of all, I love this idea. This is a fantastic idea for content. What you've done here is exemplary. It shows leadership, initiative, humility, teamwork. I can just pull out a number of positive characteristics and attributes about you as a student and what you've been able to accomplish together with your friends. So if you look at the prompt, as Kristin has had us do in the past here, tell us how you've collaborated and worked together with a small group. So most of what you're going to write about in this essay, you're going to show maybe 2/3, I would say, about what you have done, because that's the part you're an expert on. So you want to be really clear and give us that storyline, the compelling motivations. Let us have the sensory experiences of what you've walked through here. Now remember, it's only 150 to 250 words, so you're gonna have to be real selective with how you do that. But we really want to live through this with you. And then you want to talk about how you want to do something like this at Caltech. Now, you're not an expert there. However, this is where a little bit of research would go a long way. How would you do this at Caltech? Are there student groups that are in place? Are there classes? Is there an initiative at the school? Like, how might you, do you know enough about Caltech to know how it might work there? How you might be involved there. And so something that we bring up a lot with students is that colleges are looking for students that show demonstrated interest. For admissions officers, demonstrated interest is a buzzword, and it's how students get admitted to their dream schools. How interested is the student in this particular school, not just a bunch of schools? So this would really be an outstanding opportunity for you to find out specifically a possibility or two of how that might work at Caltech, and listing specific ways or means or vehicles that you could use at Caltech to accomplish this would really go a long way in showing demonstrated interest. But I would mostly focus on your experience, what you've done, and then find that little nugget of Caltech of how it might work there because you've done some research or you know things about the college and how you might apply it there. Those are my thoughts. Let's see what Kristin has to say.
I agree. You've already done something very impressive here. So there's no need to be spending the bulk of this piece focusing on something that's still only imaginary. Yeah, you can brag a little bit here because this is super impressive. When you are talking about how you might implement this at Caltech, be careful not to fall into the trap of that you single-handedly are going to come in and make this happen at Caltech, since this is an essay about your teamwork abilities and your collaborative abilities. So, do your homework, show them the demonstrated interest, but make sure that you're framing that in a collaborative way, because what they're looking for here also is your ability to work with others. And are you going to be a good group member when you have assignments and labs and things like that? So I think the other pitfall that I could see here is just falling too much into narrating your accomplishments, which would be very easy to do because I'm impressed by this, and it is impressive. So I would say maybe go back and brainstorm a little bit about your collaborative experience doing this and try to pick out, maybe you don't have many words, 250 words is the upper limit here, and that's still less than a page. That's going to be, if I can do math here, maybe like 2/3 of a normally spaced and normal sized font page. So you don't have much, but maybe pick out 2 to 3 main lessons that you learned about group work and collaboration here, and you can highlight that for us to show us, maybe you learned something about how to make decisions or leadership, or how when you would have meetings with your little group doing this, that, if you guys didn't agree on who is responsible for what, that things just didn't tend to happen, or that the quieter people in your group had good ideas but would get overshadowed in the meetings. So if you can really show us some insight here too about what you learned about working in a group and how you might put that into practice if you were to implement this idea at Caltech, I think that would be very impressive here. I think that's good. This is a great answer to the question, though. I like where this is going. Let's see. Why do you want to study your chosen major specifically at Georgia Tech? We don't have a word limit here, and we have essay idea is combined baking with my late mom and soccer. I always used to try to get the measurements just right, but my mom always had tricks to make it so delicious. After she died, I was so sad. I played soccer and it helped make me forget. I made a weird connection. I started applying her technique of baking to soccer. Learning soccer techniques is good, but knowing insider tricks from experience helps me to play better. And our student is asking us, is this a dumb topic? And I don't know how to fit this all into a short essay.
So my response to that initially is, no, that's not a dumb topic. But I think we need to go back to the type of question, the type of prompt this is, because I feel like you'll have something more to contribute. When a school asks you why you want to study your chosen major specifically at that school, they are 100% asking you to show demonstrated interest in their institution. They want to know why you have chosen the school. And so I come down to the essay idea, and it feels more like a Common App response, a narrative that would be really a great idea for a narrative essay, but it doesn't answer the question about Georgia Tech at all. And so in working with students on this part specifically of the demonstrated interest, why this college specifically, this is where the research really matters. If you have not been to Georgia Tech, can you take a virtual tour online? Do you know anybody who has been to Georgia Tech? What can you determine from the website? What you're looking for is, what can I do at Georgia Tech that I can't do at other schools? If I study my specific major at Georgia Tech, how will it benefit me to be there instead of a school in California or a school in New York or a school right down the road from me? They're asking you to know about their college. That's the whole purpose for this question. Kristin?
I agree 100%. I think this idea is cool. I'm assuming that this applicant, that you're also writing another essay, a more standard personal statement type essay for your application. So I don't think you have to totally scrap this idea, because it could fit in super well elsewhere in your application. So, keep this, just put it aside for now, maybe. And I'm wondering if maybe the reason the student is off track a bit is that they're undecided about their chosen major, perhaps, and they're just not sure how to answer this question. And that's something I see a lot as well. Because here, what you're going to want to do, ideally, is not only show that you've done your homework on Georgia Tech, but that you know about your majors, your specific intended majors program at Georgia Tech. And, if you already know what you want to major in, that's great, because you can go look through the course catalog and see who the professors are and what extracurriculars and what volunteer opportunities and, et cetera, et cetera. If you don't already know what your intended major is, do not stress, because that's totally okay. And you don't have to, either just deflect the question or make something up off the top of your head. If you don't know, I would say pick your top maybe 2 or 3 options that you're considering studying and dig into those in the course catalog and see what stands out at you. Are there courses that you're just, wow, I really want to take that, or clubs that you would love to do, or opportunities that you could have specifically at Georgia Tech in those places? And then maybe once you've done that research, things will feel a little bit clearer for you. And even if they don't, that's okay, because, a lot of people go to college with one thing in mind of what they think they want to do, and they change majors. I changed majors. So you don't have to, before you've even been accepted, know exactly what your life path is going to be for the next however many years. But they want to show that you have at least some idea of what you might be passionate about, and that you can do your homework on Georgia Tech. So I'd look into a couple of things that you might be interested in. Even if you can narrow it down to 2 or 3, you can then talk about those 2 or 3 things in your essay. You might also think about whether the different fields that you might be interested in have some connections between them, or whether there's some common thread of, what ties them together, or what attracts you, or, maybe you might even know what career you want, but you don't know what you want to major in yet. So even if you're not decided, you don't have to talk about soccer and your mom. You can still make this work, I think.
Hey, Kristin, we got a question from one of our students. If I'm trying to show good stuff about the school I'm applying to compared with others, should I mention the other schools when I compare them?
No, I would say I can't think, there's very few hard rules in essay writing, but I would say that not mentioning other schools is perhaps one of the only ones I can come up with. So ideally, you want your essay to be so specific that you could not swap out the name of Georgia Tech for any other school and have it work, right? Because they don't want to feel that you're just spamming the same essay to several schools by swapping out names. And on that same note, I mean, everyone knows that you're probably applying to other schools, but right here, you want to just keep focused only on Georgia Tech. You don't want to come across like that you might be indirectly threatening them in some odd way, like if you don't accept me, I'll go elsewhere. Just stay on the topic of this one, leave the other schools out.
Well,
Thoughts?
and Chris, one of the ideas that when you bring that up, that it made me think of a hard, fast rule. There are just a few. Is that when you write about yourself, you don't glorify yourself by comparing yourself to the weaknesses in others. You don't exalt yourself or lift yourself up by showing that you're better than other people. So I think the same rule would apply here with schools. You don't raise up Georgia Tech because they're better than the other schools that you've looked at. You should stand on your own merit. Georgia Tech should stand on its own merit, and your desire to attend Georgia Tech should stand on its own merit without having to bring other people in to compare. The comparison game is really deadly.
Mm-hmm. Hope that clears things up for Waylon. Let's move on and try to hit one more before we end the hour here. It looks like we have one more comment app here. Comment app prompt number 5. Discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. Our idea is, my dad loves golf, but I've always thought it was so boring and could instantly fall asleep when it was on TV. But last year I went with him to play. It was so hard, but I want to talk about how golf helped me to overcome my impatience, taught me discipline, and improved my relationship to authority. My parents, teachers, taking criticism and advice. And it looks like we don't have any specific questions here.
Okay, so the sports essay, it's really common. So just know that when you're starting out to talk about learning to play a sport, that's a really common concept. But here's what I really like about your idea. Immediately, you move towards characteristics and attributes. You said overcome my impatience, discipline, improve my relationship to authority, your ability to take criticism and advice. This shows self-reflection. So usually this is the part of the essay that we really have to help students with, the last part, to show the self-reflection. What I like about you is that you've actually done the hard work of self-reflection. The first part of the essay seems to be the weaker part in your essay idea. And of course, you haven't fleshed it out yet here. But what I love is that you know where you're headed. You know your destination and the characteristics and attributes that you want to exhibit. So if I was going to coach you through this essay, what I would want to do is have you write something that would just kind of drop us into the middle of a Saturday afternoon, and you walk into the basement and, oh, there it is again. And my dad's watching golf and it makes me crazy. And who would ever want to watch this? And then you could tell us a story of how you finally agreed to go play with him and it was super tough. And then in the process, all of these character attributes came out of something that you didn't think you'd necessarily like. That shows a lot of maturity, a lot of development, really makes you into an ideal college student, because you're going to encounter a lot of things in college that you don't think you like. And if you can grow through those, that's the kind of student we want. Kristin, more?
Yeah, I agree. And I like too that, you've listed some things that you learned from golf here, but it also really clearly shows something I think very impressive about your relationship with your dad and what that must mean to you, to stick through something that felt boring and overcome it so that you could be closer with him. And I understand that I had to play golf with my dad in high school too, and faced many of these same challenges actually. So I can personally relate to this essay, but I think, even indirectly here in this little couple sentence blurb, you're showing not telling something very sweet about your relationship with your dad here. And I like that. I think that the challenge here is maybe going to be the hook, because it sounds like this is going to open by telling us how boring golf is. And you're going to want to do that writing about something that initially seemed boring in a way that's not boring. And that isn't, you also don't want to start with complaining, right? So yeah, I think I like the idea of dropping us right into the middle of the narrative. getting us started with it, maybe get us started with a moment of challenge or a moment where you overcame a hurdle in golf, rather than, the opening with something more along the lines of my dad loves golf, but I thought it was boring and I would fall asleep, because that's not really grabbing my attention. But starting in one of the moments when golf stopped being boring for you is going to draw me in more here. I like this though. I'm not seeing too many more questions in the chat, and we still have 5 minutes left. So let's try to fit in one more essay. Looks like we have one more Common App here. Common App prompt number 2. The lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? We've got 650 words, and our student is telling us, I want to talk about how my grandma dying impacted me and my family. We were always in the hospital, and it was really tiring for my parents. So I took care of the household responsibilities when my parents were away from home, taking care of her at the hospital. I learned how to take care of myself and my sisters. And our student is asking, is it okay to write about a death like this?
So one thing I always encourage students to do when we come to a topic that is as emotionally deep and intimate as something like death, you're going to have to be okay inside to talk about these things, that you're not revealing things that you feel uncomfortable with or that you haven't processed yourself. So that's going to be like the first thing. It's okay for you to talk about grandma dying. However, we want to avoid trying to elicit pity, and I don't feel like you are, but sometimes students will try to bring up a tragedy in their essay to make the essay readers feel sorry for them or elicit some sort of compassionate response. I like how you talked about how you took care of household responsibilities while your parents were taking care of grandma at the hospital, because then that shows your development, your ability to step up and help. And I want to be really sensitive to the topic, because clearly this was a very big turning point, a transformational moment for you. The thing that I want you to be able to do, if you're going to talk about this, I need you to separate you and your family as much as possible, even though it happened to you as a family, because we don't want to know, we are not trying to admit your family to college. And since you've chosen this as your topic, you're going to need to be able to take the spotlight like we do in theater. We have several people on the stage, but the person who has the soliloquy or the solo in musical theater, the spotlight narrows on them and highlights them in front of everything else that's happening on the stage, so we know where to look. In the same way, you're going to need to put that spotlight on you, not on grandma, not on your family, not even necessarily on you as a part of your family, but on you. Because at the end of reading this essay, I need to understand you, not wonderful things about your grandma or the trials of your parents. So you really do have a complex emotional topic that is going to require some personal work on your part to be able to write about it effectively. You're going to have to take a step back. And if you can't take a step back from this story because it's too personal for you, it's okay to pick a different topic. Let's see what Kristin has to say.
I agree. And I'd say another related question that you might want to answer before you fully settle on this is, how recently did this happen, right? Because you don't want to write about something, if this happened, in the last, let's say 2 to 3 years, I think that can be okay, because it's still recent enough to be impacting who you are today. But if this is something that happened, say in junior high or earlier, I think I would probably choose a different topic, just because the person that the admissions officers are admitting is you, who you are today. So it can be a bit dangerous when people start writing about events that happened too far back, because people change so quickly, we undergo transformations and growth, and you really want to be putting the focus as much as possible on the who you are today. I think the other piece here is that you're going to want to show how you've applied this lesson and this newfound sense of responsibility and ability to take care of yourself past this experience. And so that could be a way that even if this were an event that happened a little bit further back that you could make this work, because presumably when, you know, your parents' routine went back to normal, you no longer probably had these particular responsibilities of working, you know, taking care of your sisters. But I think to make this work, you'd want to show how that newfound sense of responsibility or independence or resourcefulness or empathy or whatever it was that drove you to feel that you could take care of your sisters, how you put that into practice past this event as well. You know, and that doesn't have to be in such a dramatic and traumatic context either. It can be something as simple as, you know, that you said hi to somebody at school that you wouldn't normally, or you volunteered for more responsibility at your after school job, or now you can tell when your mom is a bit tired and you entertain your sister a bit more on long car rides or something. But I would say just, you know, because you're going to want to show how you put this into practice beyond this one event to make this work. I think it could work though. It's definitely not a no-go. Final thoughts, Doug, before we wrap up here?
You know, one thing that I appreciated tonight, Kristin, from the essay ideas that our students contributed here is the ideas in and of themselves weren't overly spectacular. If you're watching this, I really want you to catch on to this. You don't need a show-stopping idea that no one in the history of college essays has ever written about before. It doesn't need to be the most clever. In fact, sometimes when I'm coaching students, it's really difficult because if they try to come up with some show-stopping, hold the presses kind of idea, it can often backfire. So what's really powerful about the ideas that we've had here, they're all very common. And yet by taking an uncommon approach and showing self-reflection and self-revelation and taking us through the emotional responses, basic ideas, basic life events can become very powerful. A Taco Bell can become a showstopper of an essay if it's done well. So just, you know, just instead of looking for the most amazing, outlandish thing that you could say or write to get someone's attention, the ability to critically think through the prompt, the ability to create a logical account, the ability to stay within the word limit, the ability to follow the prompt, the ability to show heart and self-reflection. These are the things that really stand out. And, you know, I'll tell you, just from reading tons of essays and going through them, when you find the student that really understands how to highlight and spotlight themselves through, as you said, showing up telling, by fully addressing the prompt, and showing a sense of self-reflection and self-awareness, those students really stand out very quickly.
Yeah, agreed 100%. So let's wrap things up for now, because I know it could be getting late for some of us, but I'll drop in the chat our links to our knowledge base resources. And you guys, if you have more individual questions as well, you are 100% welcome to come check out our essay editing and coaching service. And one of us can work with you one-on-one to make sure your essay is top notch.